financial advisor walk into a bar.
And then what happens?
Well, I get this question a lot, which I think is going to be an interesting one. What's the best business decision you've ever made?
Oh, great question. I certainly got that. It's an easy one for me, and I've got to make sure that my team are listening to this podcast because I'm going to give them a nod and they're going to feel very good about it. So, yeah, that's right. They'll probably be the only people listening to the podcast anyway. So I think it'll be good if they could be listening. That's good. So I'll make sure I send them the link before that. And I just wanted to show you I've got a beer for this one. It's only a light ginger beer, which tells you about, where my life is at the moment. No sugar in it, no alcohol.
Oh, that's
yeah, well, I think I'm trying to battle the COVID bulge and I've actually got work to do after this. So it's just the ginger beer for me.
Well, I'll hang in there with a bit of a Peroni.
Oh, there you go. Oh, well, that's a bit nicer.
I've still got work to do, but it needs to be creative, so...
Yeah, okay.
I'll just help myself.
Okay. Yeah. Well, why don't I start?
Business decision, what do you reckon?
Yeah. For me, the clear standout is hiring my practice manager, my office manager, Jody. It was very early on. I started the business and it was just me, just struggling away. And it was a bit early on. It was a big decision to put anyone on. Putting on an employee is a scary thing, and you're paying salaries and super, and you're making a commitment to someone to look after them, and you've got to have enough for them to do. And when you're just a one-person show, then adding another full person in is quite hard. So it took a lot of confidence for me to do that. And thankfully, I got the right person, probably by luck as much as anything. But she's been an absolute godsend to me because just a heap of what I do day to day is now done by Jody, and that frees me up to do all sorts of other things. It frees me up to spend more time with clients. I can go out and spend the day with a client, which I couldn't have early on because I was sitting there, drafting documents or responding to emails or reconciling the accounts or whatever else I was doing. But getting good help, and that I think is then if I extend that further, hiring Erin and other people that I've got in the team, but hiring people has just freed me up to really deliver a heap more to the clients and to be much happier. Having more time to myself and being able to go on holidays and all that sort of stuff that you can't do if you're trying to do everything yourself. And a lot of businesses I see, a lot of clients are really, even though they might have 10 staff, they're still trying to do a lot. Way too much themselves. You find if you get the right person.
So you find the right person, but it's also then delegating and giving them the responsibility. Yeah. It's like, I've hired you to do this job. Yeah. It's the outcome I want.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to take a slightly different path.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's a real skill to either not micromanage them on one hand, and then on the other hand, not to just hand it over to them and then say, look, if you need me, I'll be on holidays. So and it requires a real mindset change. I mean, I saw myself as a lawyer, as sitting there typing up legal documents and stuff all day, not really as a business owner. And a business owner and a lawyer are two totally different things. And it require different skills, different mindset. If a new client comes in, I don't necessarily always ring them up and talk to them, which I did at the start. I might get someone else to ring them, or I might, whatever's suitable. We need a kind of a system in place to how to onboard clients and all this sort of stuff, which was all new to me. I did everything myself.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think that the taking on of people to take away the work that you may or may not like doing, but you can provide better value doing something else.
Yeah.
And also someone takes a slightly different perspective on it, which enables them to take on those systems and processes.
Yeah.
Because that's the work they like to do.
Yeah, and they're better at. Often, if you get the right person, they're better at than you. Yeah. I mean, I can't. I'm not an accountant. I'm not I'm not. They've got the right skills. They can do it. They can get more out of it. They can enjoy it, and they can add more value than you can. Yep. So when it works, it's magic. But then, of course, you have different problems. You have then people management problems. So it's not all just blue sky. And I'm not pretending like I'm perfect at it. But certainly that for me really transformed my business from a sort of a one man show to a proper business, which gave me my sort of more than anything my mental health back. Because I could rely on other people. rather than trying to go it alone all the time.
I think the other point that you raised was that transition, how you identify yourself. So are you a lawyer or a financial advisor or a business owner that happens to be delivering a particular service?
Yeah.
And I think that's a real distinction as well, that once people get their head around the fact that this is a business that has systems and people and processes and procedures, that it should, the key, I suppose, for any business is to function without the principals being there or the founder. There's that balance that it functions without us being there. But that's always an interesting, kind of transition. But I do think even when you start a business, is being clear around what is the objective of the business going to be going forward. Am I starting the business because I want a job, or am I starting the business because I want to build a business?
Well, do you think all businesses should be planning to either be under management or to be sold one day, or do you think there's sort of a third category where you can just run the business yourself for a few years and then maybe just close it down?
Yeah, look, I think one of the things that we're sort of finding at the moment, there are businesses out there, they've been very successful. They're a smaller business. It might be, one key owner with a team of people around them that has amazing contracts, really good contacts. Work just seems to come to them. They make good margin on all these various jobs. And so the business is very strong cash flow wise. So there's I suppose there's the multiple paths. One is to continue to grow it and keep expanding. The other one is that you do look to sell it. But again, how do you need to get your business prepared to sell? Or alternative, you can just look at it and say, you know what, I've got a really good business, but what I'm going to be doing, if I'm extracting as much as possible, I need to be building an asset base outside of the business that will then generate an income stream for me. So therefore, you may say, look, I'm just going to keep running it, but I know that year on year, as well as, money going into super, or there might be some real estate purchases or some other, investments that can be used. So then the business can be, at that particular point in time, they might then sell it to an existing employee, but not at the market rate. It's just like, you know what, you can take it over. It might be 1 times revenue, or it might even be half times revenue. Does it matter? The person's happy to pass it on to the next person, or they literally just say, I'm going to hang on to it and then I'll sell it and I'll just close the door at 31 December and we're done. So there's no perfect on any of that. And that's where some people, they just like, I don't want the grief of taking on staff and all the other stuff. Other people, they want to come in, get a business up and running and see how quickly they can grow it to then either sell it to a competitor or to someone else. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that in some of the technology businesses. They're coming up, they get started so quickly, and they're amazing to watch how some of them have just had these huge uplifts in a really short period of time. Afterpay, Canva, any of some of these various technologies, once they've got the platform ready to go, it's unbelievable. Like amazing revenue generation and wealth generation of people that just love the business. And, again, do you want to stay local or go international or even on a national basis? 2 different realms. So, yeah, I think it's been, to me, the big issue about, what's the best decision made is being clear about what you want to do.
Yeah.
That's a really important one.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, you don't know. You start a business maybe because you lost your job doing something else, or because your friends were starting one and you thought it was a good idea or whatever. And then you think, well, and I fall in that category. I'm not sure that, that I've thought, well, in 20 years, do I want to be selling this business, or do I want to be putting it under management, or do I want to just close the doors? Is that possible? I mean, my uncle, he was a GP for many, many years, and when he retired, he literally shut the doors. He had a small practice, but it was a good practice, and he just shut the doors. And he, in that time, he falls into that category. In that time, he generated wealth elsewhere, and had, is now retired happily on a big farm, and he's loving life. He didn't sell it for squillions, but he made his money on the way through.
Yeah, and this is the real balance about. I suppose part of it becomes what are the decisions that you need to make? And there's always different ways. Do you want to do everything yourself, or is there a balance that you want to get some people to support you? And that's always going to be the challenge. And I think it's going to be even more difficult over the next couple of years in certain areas because struggling to get staff at the moment. You talk to so many different people. Their real challenge is, oh man. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, I have 15 positions available.
Wow.
I could put 15 people on, but I cannot get them. Predominantly sort of, regional and sort of rural areas. But
Right.
he just said it's really kind of hard at the moment is trying to find people.
Yeah.
And that's where I think some businesses are going to be, in a position that they're not going to, they want to grow because it's so hard to get the staff that they kind of need along the way. That's the real challenge.
So what about you? What do you think when you look back on your business journey so far? Is there a particular thing that stands out to you as being the best thing you've done?
Look, probably the best thing is just getting on with it. Yeah, I don't know. Like there's
tell me, or I'll do it, and I'll be very successful as well.
No, but it's sort of. I think part of it is just you kind of the best thing is to back yourself.
Yeah.
And again, I think being clear around what it is, but also be forgiving of yourself that you're not always going to get everything right.
Yeah.
Every time you do it, it just sometimes you just like, you know what, I just got that wrong. I just misread it or whatever. So, I do think the best decisions are making a decision.
Yeah.
Not sitting on the fence on stuff.
Inaction is a real problem. Yeah. And oftentimes you make a decision. Doesn't matter. There is no right or wrong. You just make the decision and you move on with your business. That's the important thing, that you make a decision. Don't get stuck.
Yep.
I agree with that.
And I also think one of the big things for me is not being so aware of the competitors, but not comparing ourselves to the competitors.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be someone more successful, less successful, or who appear. I've had a real problem with that in that you when you're looking at sometimes at your competitors or the business landscape, the way it appears and the way it is are two different things. People don't show you you don't see people's books. They might have a ton of staff. I mean, I've had clients like this, got a ton of staff, appear to be very successful, but they're taking very little financially out of the business. In fact, they're barely surviving. And maybe they've got too many staff, but you think, a lot of staff, and people ask me, how many have you got in your team as an indicator of success? And of course, that's, your headcount is not an indicator of your success. You hope you hire people because you're making money, but people are an expense, right? The more people you got doesn't necessarily mean the more profitable you are. Often quite the opposite. So you've got to really understand, what's going on out there, what's going on in the market in reality, and often no one will tell you. One of the things I struggled with related to that was, early on you try and get a mentor, you want a mentor to help you. And I probably looked up to a few people who ran law firms and got a few tips and all of that stuff. But then as I got to know them better, I realised they were less successful than me. And I went, well, there's nothing wrong. They can still, just because you're less successful doesn't mean you've got, don't have things to offer.
What do they say? Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Well, they were faking it really well, and I was looking up to them, thinking they're fantastic. But I think some of the things that I was doing, which is modelling myself on them, probably weren't the best things to be doing. I was just doing it because that's what you do. You try and you look up to people, and then you follow what they do, and what they were doing wasn't that great.
Yeah,
and I learned that
again,
the hard way.
Yeah, but that's also then making the decisions along the way that sometimes you're not sure which way to go. Where does the road lead you? Sometimes it's sometimes it's moving forward, sometimes it's going left, sometimes it's turning right, but sometimes it might be stepping back and going down a slightly different path. But it's that making the decision as to which way it goes, and that's like anything, maturity and any sort of decision. You learn from your decisions, and some are better than others. What do you do? But I think the best decision is making the decision, but just giving something a crack.
Yeah. Getting stuck into it, doing it now, don't wait.
Yeah.
There's
no perfect answer.
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
I don't think for anything. You just got to kind of give it a go and
Yeah. The other big thing for me, I think, looking back, is that was a real advantage is really understanding who I am and what I'm doing as a business person and as a business owner, and then understanding the kind of niche that fits into or the need that meets. And really understanding it as in as detailed a way as you can. You can't be all things to all people. And I certainly started the business. If someone rang me and said, "Can you do this?" I'd say, "Yep." And now I say, "Well, hang on. Let's what is it that you want to achieve? And I find a bit more about you." So, for instance, we work for business owners. If you're not a business owner, you're not suitable for us. That's who we work for, right? Whereas if someone had said, "Oh, I'm having a dispute with my neighbour about a fence," so we do disputes, so that fits into the disputes category. But really, a neighbourhood dispute about a fence is not what we do.
Yep.
We really understood what we were on about, where our skills were, where we could add the value, and what kind of niche we fitted into. That was a big turning point, I suppose, for us.
Yeah.
That I think all businesses really have to understand their niche, and I think
which comes back to that ability to be quite laser focused about.
Yeah.
Because for every time, I remember the saying now, for every yes, you have to give 25 no's or something.
No, I've not heard that.
You don't want to say yes to everything because you'll never get anything done. So you will say a lot of no's, but then the market becomes educated around what it is that you're very focused on. Like which sector of the market are you renowned for?
Yeah. Yeah, but that takes some guts, especially, from early on, and I'm probably going back a while now, but early on, saying no to people, you're like, but this is a paying customer. I'm not going to say no to a paying. That's madness. You don't grow a business. Yeah. And I sort of thought, well, if you help everyone, then the word will get around that you're very helpful and people will want to do business with you. And you might even do things, on the cheap or whatever, because you think, well, that's gonna be a good idea because people are the word's going to get around what a nice guy you are. But in fact, word gets around to people who don't want to pay. So, so you get more, you do a bit of free work and then you get more free work out of it, which is, that's nice if you want to help people, but that's not a sustainable business model.
Doesn't pay the bills.
It doesn't pay the salaries of the team, and really is unfair to all the paying clients, So
yes, and I agree. Yeah. I agree with that point of view. That's with the balance because all of a sudden you're trying to sustain a business, but you can't let certain paying customers subsidise certain areas. An element of your work as pro bono, and that's
right. I'd rather do a job for free. Yeah, that's right. And go look for 10% of our work we do for free if you meet these criteria or whatever. That's
correct.
That's fine. Rather than try and do a few things on the cheap for people who are sort of semi-paying. You want to be clear. You're either paying or you're not.
But that's like I've said to my kids over the years, you've got to be if you're asking something of someone. You need to be clear. It's a bit like when they're younger and they want to go and get a job, and it's like, oh well, or someone's come out of university and they've finished a particular course, and then they turn around and go, oh well, look, I'll sort of I'll go and talk to Alex. He might know of someone, and so someone pops along and they jump in there and they say, oh look, Alex, and you ask a few questions, and so what would you like to do? Oh, I'll just I'd like to do anything in the law. Okay. Yeah. The law is a really wide area. Yeah. You need to be a little bit more specific for me. Is it family law? Is it commercial law? Or is
I know what they'll say. They'll say human rights. They always say human rights. Yeah. That's what I said. And you go, okay, well that's cool. Good on you. Because there's only 6 jobs.
Where's that going?
And there's 75,000 jobs as a commercial lawyer, which is what I am. So obviously that.
But you know what I mean? It's being specific and clear around what it is that you do and you offer, which makes it much easier for people to understand, oh, you do that. Oh, you don't do family law. No. That's not a space we're in. Oh, but do you know someone? Yes, I do. I know, Mary over here. Mm-hmm. She does family law. That's not a space that we're in. And again, I think on any of that stuff, for any decision that you want to make as a business, being clear around what it is that you do, but also what is it that you don't do.
Yeah, absolutely. And that informs what you do.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, often
it's a bit like,
us.
do list.
Yeah.
But we also say there's also a not to do list.
Ah, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
okay.
goes back to like bringing
Very
on
long.
your practice manager.
Yeah.
There's things on that list that are not, Alex is not to do these
Ah,
things.
yes. And actually, when she sometimes accuses me of going rogue, and when oh, Alex has gone rogue again. And what that means is Alex has done something that he's allocated to me as my job. And
Yep.
he's interfering with my job and making my
Yep.
life hard, and he should stop doing that. And
Yep.
obviously she's trying to be nice about it, but I think she's just saying, stay out of my way, because I know what I'm doing. Yeah, that's right. And sticking my beak in is not helping; it's making things worse. And I mean, that's a
well, you do
fantastic position to
something.
be
Yeah,
in.
you do something, and it causes more work
Yeah.
because you've not followed the process that normally is meant to be agreed to.
Yeah, I've used my discretion thinking that I'm helping. And I've come in half baked with half the information and sort of thought I was assisting. Yeah, that's right.
Because business owners never do that.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. I did the company directors course years ago, which you learn about being a company director, and you learn about boards of directors and reporting to boards and all of that. And they said comprehensively that the main problem with privately owned companies is the majority shareholder, the owner. They're the problem, because no one can really stop them from doing dumb stuff. So you want if you can the board to be professional and to be to have independent directors and all of that to try and get the owner, which is me, into line, and to be acting professionally, which all their team are. So it was quite confronting in a way for me doing that course. Oh, right. So I'm the
But
problem.
that's one of the other things that we've had discussions with a number of people is from a business decision perspective, looking to put, and it doesn't matter what size it is, but some form of advisory board together. So it's not from a fiduciary point of view where there's a legal obligation, but more around whether it be 6 monthly or quarterly. You kind of sit with people that are independent from the business and having those discussions and just sort of saying, well, this is where we're going, and asking people to challenge you on your thinking. That has been a very successful component of some of the better decisions, because sometimes you just can't see the wood for the trees. You're so immersed in a business or the owner is just so close to all of the detail that they just don't see the opportunity, that literally they might be able to just reach out and touch. But that's where a third party but sometimes it can be just a dinner or a lunch. You might present some financials or the strategy where you're going, but I find it keeps people accountable around, well, this is what you said you were going to do 6 months ago. What's happened? Oh, well, you got...
Oh, I don't like the sound of that. Accountable? Oh, that's the worst. I started a business so I didn't have to be accountable.
Well, yeah, and this is, again, this is where it's interesting, and you've got to kind of, hang the hat on that directly yourself along the way. What are we doing in our own businesses that where you've got to take some of the own medicine that you're providing to people? And, that's always a challenge. When you put something out there and it's in the public domain as such, it's like, well, how'd you go on that? It's clearly, there's lots of research that says if you put, the various goals or things that you want to achieve and a time frame to it and disclose it to other people, your probability of success is dramatically increased.
Yeah.
And to me, it's the same with the business.
Yeah, if you tell all your friends you're going to quit smoking or go on a diet or do whatever you're going to do, you're much more likely to achieve it than if you keep it to yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because then it just spins around in circles.
Yeah.
All right. Any other pearls of wisdom, best decisions? Because I think worst decisions can be another topic.
Yeah. And I think that, in fact, let's do that. Let's do the worst decisions in business as another topic, because I think I could talk about that for longer. It's probably more amusing.
Yeah.
Best decisions just makes all my team think they're great. That's the last thing I need to do. It makes me feel like I'm not accountable, which I've really just dropped in it.
Step aside.
Yeah, that's right. So, no, that's all good. That's all good for me, Dave.
All right. Well, once again, lots of banter. Hopefully, lots of knowledge is being, shared. And we look forward to dropping in on the next podcast.
See you next time.
Once again, Alex.